becoming the best at it and mastering myself and seeing what I have within me. If you decide to drop your buckets where you are and develop your gifts, I grant you, you'll never ever be without. I grant you that your gifts will take you places that will literally amaze you.
What's up, everybody? We are going to be ready to rock and roll in here just a second, and alright, I think we're good. So, today we are working on this fun mini right here. This is one of the Dreadmere sculpts. Sorry, I'm swapping over my camera so I can see a full screen here. So this is one of 4 that I'm going to be working on just for a fun personal project. However, the only pre-work that I've done so far in this miniature obviously is do base coats, wash the entire thing, and then seal it down. So sorry for the double volume. There we go. Just want to make sure I have my actual live chat up and running. There we go. So you can see this one, pretty basic, but we're going to be pushing the colors quite a bit. And then we have this guy as well. They all sort of have a matching scheme. The bases all still need work, obviously, but they're all relatively wearing the same muted color palette. They've all got that purple, that green, somewhere in the outfits, but this is going to be a team for the game, Simple Skirmish, so I did want them all to sort of match in general. Oops. Looks like I forgot to put a sheet of this wet palette paper on here. Let me make sure the wet palette is good. I think it's fine, but better safe than sorry. I've got to mess with the edges because they curl back up. There we go. Alright, so essentially today we're just going to be moving up on highlights and everything like that, finishing this guy out. Nothing too insane. And we're keeping the paint scheme pretty simple too, like nothing really intense. So, first thing, we may as well work on this nice cloak he's got going on. So, originally it was this rust brown. We may push it all the way up to some type of orange, so we'll just kind of have to see about that. Depends on how far I want to take it, but we're not doing anything too insane. And, sorry, really quick, I saw that load. Alright. Hope everybody's having a good day out there. We made it to Friday. Pretty much just as sick as I've been all week, unfortunately, but I am sure this weekend I will be feeling better at some point. It's also been raining a lot the last few days, so I don't know if that is messing with my sinuses too, but... So since most of the shading that we've been working with was done with the washes, it makes your job a lot easier. Because we're just sort of pushing it closer to more of a high contrast, and then letting the wash essentially pick up the slack. Using relatively thinned out paint. Start to layer in these highlights here. Pushing the pigment around so that I can get it to essentially land where I want it to dry. And this was a pretty clean sculpt. There are a couple mold lines I just couldn't get without potentially cutting off other features here of the sculpt, but the way that I'll be highlighting it, we're not going to be able to see, I think, any of them by the time we're done. You can see how that dries. It was extremely wet a minute ago, that bottom row. But it dries super thinned out. Allows us to really feather on a highlight. So, I decided to fund a pretty cool giveaway. No matter what we raise, we've already raised 10 bucks, so that's really cool. But we'll be putting together a really awesome package and doing a raffle for that just on the general page. No Patreon or anything like that required. Definitely check out the link to the Teespring campaign. I'll be running it this weekend for the first print. And whatever we end up making will go into the giveaway, so definitely check that out. We have some requested t-shirts. It was funny too, right? Because I was going to do the Scholar logo that we use in the Patreon and everything like that. But people wanted the other image of Arthur and myself, so I decided, alright, that's what people asked for, so we'll go ahead and push that out. So we have it available in, the t-shirt's pretty expensive, but I also am making sure it's being printed on a nice shirt, so it's not just some cheap, like, you know, just ink. I don't even know, it's not a heat transfer, I forget what the actual term is, but making sure it's their premium t-shirt, and then of course it's also available on a hoodie, and then what I was really more interested in was the mug. So no matter what you're purchasing, every single purchase puts $5 towards the actual giveaway, so whatever you can afford, whatever you can do, it's all good. And then the giveaway is going to include some of the exclusive stuff from ReaperCon, a big miniature, and some other goodies as well. I think I'm going to mix up a container of the Money Wash and ship that out as a part of the giveaway. So I know that has been a highly requested item that I somehow figure out how to give away or make for people. So that's going to be a part of the giveaway. Now with this stitching or beading or whatever it is that goes along the bottom here, I am going to go back in, reshade that, and then pick them all out. But beyond that, this is pretty much as far as I'm willing to push in terms of detailing here for this base color. The standard I'm going for is more of just sort of my personal tabletop standard, so not to be confused with my commission tabletop, but what I'm comfortable with throwing together to use on a table. So for these folds, I am going to go in and taper them further into this color, so I'm going to be removing some of that intensity of shadow. In some of the spots. And then I'm going to feather it in the other areas like that. Now, I can't really hit it from the angle that I would like to, but not that big of a deal. So what I'm doing in the shadows here is pulling out a heavily thinned version, so I'm trying to pull it down to taper it. I had a blue in there initially, but the colors completely just made it look like a really dark black, so not too concerned. But that's what I'm doing here, is I'm just glazing on top of some of these deeper shadows, so that way everything appears a little bit more even before we move on to any secondary highlight color. Alright. The brush we're using right now is well, it says it's a size 1, but it's also, I know it's the same size as my 00s that I use, so sort of just depends on the manufacturer, sadly. But it's the size that I'm used to using, I'll put it that way. Anything about this length I'm relatively happy with. Unless I'm doing like big color blocking work, but obviously this old Rotundo boy does not need too much because of the outfit that he's wearing. And if you need any information on the colors we're using, anything like that, we are using Reaper paints completely. The wash, though, obviously would be weird if it wasn't our favorite strong tone. So that is what we use, but... Alright, so I'm happy with that as our base, and now I'll move it up a little bit. Just a touch or two. Hey Josh, how's it going, man? Alright, so let's use, actually, this may be the same tone. Yeah, it is. Okay. I was hoping it was a little bit brighter. Whoop! Hey, look, there's the Frozen 3D Ninja Mini. Alright. I don't want to get too many colors out at once, so let's see. Yeah, it's gonna have to be this one. So, Phoenix Red is where we're heading next. I want the outfit to be pretty loud, pretty crazy. So, everything's going to be saturated up quite a bit in terms of color. So the layer that we're applying right now is pretty much the precursor layer before the highlight, if that makes sense. So this is the in-between color. Alright, so now we can start working on the rest of these up here. So pretty quick highlighting. If the paint that you're working with is in the sweet spot, it'll be drying really quick. So you can just keep on moving, which is what we're doing. Alright, so we're good on that layer. So now we can move up to this final sort of neon orange we're working with, at least in terms of contrast on the rest of the mini. There we go. It's nice and bright. So I'm sort of just picking and choosing where I'm applying this. I'm not necessarily following the fold. Just trying to create a variance there of the color. Again, always pulling the brush the direction I want that feather to happen. That way I can control how the paint's going to dry. But I think we've got that color transition pretty well. Okay, so that's good enough for me on that cape. I think we've got a nice little color pop happening there, so pretty easy peasy. Next color, let's work on our purple. So this should be easy. We're just gonna do one highlight using Runic Purple. So we're just gonna layer this on its own. If we need to go up, we'll go up, but I'm pretty sure this color is pretty saturated, if I'm remembering right. I need to rotate that. Do a little thumb check here. Feathering it in the back to get that shadow back there. Clean that up a little bit. There we go. So, shameless plug time. If you want to check out some of the new stuff that I added after ReaperCon to the Amazon store, make sure you do. You can see that, as always, at amazon.com/shop/minipaintingstudio. And you can see all of my recommended products that I use every single day. As well, check out the Patreon. Patreon.com/minipaintingstudio. You can see all the information there, starting at $5 a month. Pretty much 90% of all the perks happen at $5 a month. The tier above that, you're just eligible for miniature giveaways and things like that. Definitely check that out. This month's class that we'll be doing on the 15th is going to be object source lighting, if you have ever been interested in anything like that. So the class is going to be about 2 hours, 2.5 hours long, where we will be painting. I actually got the miniature in the mail today because Reaper is so fast at shipping. But we're going to be working on a miniature holding a torch, so if you ever wanted to learn how to paint fire and do lighting effects for fire, definitely a good class to hop in on. And as always, too, the class isn't a paint-along lesson. It is something for you to watch. You can try and paint along and keep up, or you can go back and watch it over and over and over, because it will be available indefinitely after the class is over. Here's the miniature that we're actually going to be working on. A little bit hard to see here because of all the lighting. There we go. So it's one of the Pathfinder miniatures from Reaper. This information is always available ahead of time as well, so you can purchase whatever we're going to be working on if you would like to paint up the same thing. You can see, as I knock that over, we have the torch in the right hand and some crazy armor. So it should be pretty fun to paint. We do any damage? Oh, looks like we did. We knocked a little paint off the edge of the hat there. Fix that. But I think we are good on our highlights on the hat. That's pretty simple. Alright, and we're going to move on to the wrists here. Pull out this purple. Pretty easy. Keep the shadow in there. Remember, we're letting the wash do the work for us, right? We're only going to pull and feather our highlights wherever we don't want to leave that nice gradient. You're sort of meeting in the middle. And it really helps, right? I mean, that highlight's finished. It took 5 seconds, 10 seconds, so. But alright, we're done with the purple. Let's move on. We will move on to, let's do the this green undercoat he has. Now, this was a super dark green to begin with, and it's already pretty green, so I'm actually going to mix in some of this Templar blue. The color that we're using for the green is forest green. I gotta make sure I'm leaving the colors that we used over here for when I do a write up on the Reaperforms. There we go. Alright, so I'm gonna mix a little bit of this Templar blue in there. And it's actually gonna make a much bluer green. But it should work for us pretty well. And if it isn't noticeable, which it may not be, we'll mix it up. So I'm gonna let this little tiny little section I just did dry for a second. Now it looks visible right there, right, because it's wet. But if I'm remembering how this green actually dries, you can see right there, it really is more of a glaze, so I think we need more of that blue. It may need to be like the majority of that blue color actually, and it looks like it does need to be. So we're just gonna do edge work then. Still pretty green, but more blue than emerald green. This is gonna work fine, actually. It's great. Alright. So moving in on the pockets. Since that other section's still wet, may as well do this little area. So it's not a huge area of color, but it is enough to where you can sneak in some nice little transitions here and there. Just to make things look even more interesting. It's already a great sculpt, first of all. But for a skirmish war game where you only need 4 miniatures on each side, I figured this dude would make an interesting character on the table. Alright, yeah, I'm really digging that color. I think it's working well. Then underneath, I'm just gonna go, oh, I actually need to get more of the blue out. Then I'm literally just gonna use this Templar blue as edge color for like the skirting, or I don't really know what's going on with this outfit necessarily. But those little sort of frills down at the bottom, that's where I'm gonna apply it, so. Easy. So that's it down there. You know, I could use the same color for these frills on top too. Even though they were painted lighter, like white, I think we'll just have it all match. So I'm just going to cover the sort of lighter edge work that was left by the wash with the blue. So we have 2 little alternating blue colors. One sky blue and then one sort of like emerald-ish, greenish, jade-ish, bluish, hue-ish, all those. Okay, cool. Easy peasy. Alright. Now, let's work on the skin. So for the actual skin itself, I'm using tanned highlight on top of the exact same color, but I just used the Vallejo Flesh Wash. Also mixed in with a little bit of blue here and there. So, pretty standard highlights here. We're just going to be doing the dot method, dotting up knuckles and other joints, and then your eye will make it appear to be cooler than it really is. See? Easy highlights. Just doing dots. Okay. The face. I'm really not going to mess with it much. We're just going to do the tip of the nose. Cheek. There does appear to be sort of a mold issue too on the right hand, the right eye. It's either flash or I'm not sure what it is exactly, but not perfect, but it looks good. All right, so skin done. Pretty simple. Okay, let's work on the beard. Now I did put up the color that I had been using, so I think it was this one. Actually, I think this is a little bit too dark, so I'm hoping I don't need to, but if I do, I do. Alright, so we're gonna go with lantern yellow. If this isn't right, then we'll search around, but... Painting hair. Pretty easy when it's sculpted well like this. Okay, so now we're gonna mix it up a little bit. Or not mix it up, but rather this is gonna be like our point highlight color, so buckskin pale. You can see I'm just mixing it in, making it really, really light. And I can use my thumb as a palette here since I only need this tiny little itsy bitsy bit. Alright, so where's my focal length? Where are you at? Right there? So just picking out highlights. On pretty much wherever I want the eye to be pulled towards. So I'm also varying the way that the texture is too by applying highlights sort of lower than they should go, things like that. So I'm not just doing these straight lines, I'm sort of breaking it apart, and that just adds texture to the facial hair. Can make him appear as if he has more of a wiry, wild beard than he does. Alright, so, happy with that. Now we just pretty much have the metals. And some final details. So I'm using one of the new colors here, Skeleton Key. It's actually really awesome. In the bottle, it looks a lot darker than it really is in application. It's a great color. Very bright, sort of blue-hewn silver. He does have a peg leg. Very crucial. If he already didn't have enough character, having the peg leg definitely helps out. Okay, and then we're also going to use this ancient bronze for his gold color. These were dulled out a little bit by the clear coat that I applied after the wash, but definitely by the wash. So going back over them to pick out the highlight again is always good. You don't have to though, but just makes it pop again. And again, we're just painting this up today to whatever I would consider for my quick and easy tabletop level stuff, so not trying to do anything crazy, just want it to look nice. Time-wise, there was probably 20 minutes invested to get it to the point where we started today, so the base color and then all over one color wash. Took about 20 minutes, and then just letting that dry, so wherever we end up today, probably an hour and 20 minute paint job, not too bad. Minus the basing, of course. Alright, so I do think that I want to maybe highlight this up a little bit more, so we're going to go on top of the baby blue with Icy Violet. So even though this is purple, it's probably going to look like a baby blue in comparison. And we're just barely going for edges. There we go. I'm happy with that. Picked it out a little bit more. Alright, so now I'm going to move him back here, change it. Alright, so there we go. Alright, so you can see decent little transitions, nice and simple. Good for tabletop play. I might dry brush the feathers, but I have to figure it out too if I want to make that match with something else. But to give you a comparison, right, they're all going to have similar matching schemes. So here's his buddy. So his cloak is going to be the same color as his undercloak. Obviously the purples are the same there. And then he just sort of has more browns. She has a lot darker colors, but a really dark brown and then more purple with reddish hair. And then finally we have a lot of the colors mixed in here, but I would do some different texture work on that cloak. But so it's a little team of 4 of them together. And then whatever I want to do for the basing. On these, it's kind of interesting, right? Because they have this sort of pre-work done on the basing. But I would obviously texture this in to where they're all sort of matching with the... like we did with the little child adventurers from before ReaperCon and everything like that. So, let's see where else we can push them. Actually, you know, I don't think we are going to need to dry brush that. We'll just go ahead and paint it up. Talking about the plume, it'll take a little bit of concentration, but so we're going to use Snow Shadow for the first one. So we're going to be doing like realistic highlights, but implied highlights as well. So picking and choosing where to apply the paint. Forgot I moved that focal length, so wanted to make sure you'd be able to see. This is a light blue color. But we'll hit the highlight with a drastic white on top, so it'll sort of kill the blue tint a little. But so you can see, we're not painting every single feather. We're just getting it in there to where it's implied that there are all these different ones. And there appears to be a little bit of a mold issue too. Right on top, but I think I can paint it over. There we go. To where it'll just look like a plume. Alright, so there's the first layer of that, and then now we need a much lighter color. So let's go for a warmer tone, but very, very pale. This is Linen White. It's more of an off-white. You can see right there. So again, as we're finishing up details on this guy, this weekend we are running the t-shirt, sweatshirt, mug campaign to fund a nice big giveaway. So definitely check that out. Anything you buy, $5 is the profit, so that's going directly into the giveaway. And then that obviously as well, you know, we'll have all the details on that once that's finished up. But definitely check that out. The link is on the Facebook page directly. Posted it a little bit earlier today, so definitely give that a look. Give it a peep. And then again, on the 15th, we have this month's Patreon class, all about object source lighting. Access for that begins at the $5 monthly tier. The $10 just gets you into our painted raffle every single month, and then some extra bonus streams in their private group as well. And then if you need any information or anything like that in regards to what I use on commissions all the time, you can always check out amazon.com/shop/mini painting studio. And I've got pretty much everything listed on there minus a couple items. And if for whatever reason, I don't know why, but if you would ever need a commission, feel free to hit me up. You can send a message directly to the page. You can also do it on the website at minipainting.studio. I believe it's the say hello button or something like that. One of those things. But alright, so very easy little highlights there on the plume. Wherever that focal length is, there it is. Chill. There we go. So, pretty simple. I think that's pretty much as far as we can push it too, so... Obviously could go further, but in terms of the quality, I'm going to be keeping everything else. This is pretty much it. I guess we can do a little bit of the dot method here with this white for sort of extreme highlights. I just need to thin it correctly. Alright, that should be good enough for what I'm looking for. So I'm just creating points of hyper contrast. A little bit something different. It's a little bit thick there, but we can fix it. So after you have your bright white edges, just go back over with the glaze layer of those same colors. It'll tint those edges, so you get really fine highlight detail. And since we're using a wet palette, right, all the colors that we've been using are still out here, so not too far of a stretch to make it happen. Some colors too will look fine with that highlight, so you may just want to leave it depending, but glazing it down helps. And it's just a little subtle pip of a highlight when it dries. Cool. Alright, easy as that. So, let me glance over here. Alright, so we are pretty much done with this miniature for the day. And we may hit the other ones on here as well, just sort of depends. But let me bounce this back really quick. I think I need to clean my lens, but anyway, that is this guy for today. I'll have pictures of him as well on the Instagram. You can always find that Mini Painting Studio, as usual. And I had, let me see if this is the one. No, let me see if I need to roll over to the bucket. All right, I need to roll over to the bucket for the giveaway mini, so I will be right back. Excuse me, Arthur. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see where he needs to be. Here we go. We will replace me with that. There we go. Enjoy. Alright, so, and we did Backbones 4. So once that gets delivered, we'll be giving away a bunch of Bones 4 stuff as well every single week. Alright, so today we're going to be giving out this big old, whoop, let's kill some lights, shall we? We're going to be giving away this big old ape guy, big old gorilla. So make sure you type in ape into the chat, and then that way I will know that you want to be a part of the giveaway. And a little bit less bright light. You can see our paint job on this dude today. Not bad for about under an hour, or maybe an hour and 10, including the base work ahead of time. So, but as always, put ape into the chat to be eligible. I will be contacting the winner. I usually wait a couple hours just so people can catch up. But so, if you're watching this at a later date, if you're not watching this on Friday, then you probably aren't eligible to get it. But as always, oh. Crank him back. Thanks so much for hanging out today. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to be painting up the rest of this little squad of dudes. I don't really have a name for them yet. I think it's some type of, like, funny, like, inspector's unit or something. These guys seem like city officials or, like, law enforcement guys of some type, so. And then the sneaky rogue and the weird wizard druid type character, so. I think they make an interesting little team visually, but that'll be it for today. Thanks so much for hanging out. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. I hope you find $20 in your pocket, and I will catch